This is for those of you suffering the effects of betrayal and heartache by someone you loved and trusted, who was addicted to something: sex, alcohol, or other substances. Before we begin, I want you to simply notice what you see behind your eyes, what you hear in the quiet around you, and what you feel in your body right now. Because heartbreak has many shapes, and each shape carries its own story, its own weight, its own way of asking to be healed. And as you listen, you may find that some words land in your mind, some in your heart, and some in places you didn't even realize were still holding on. And that's okay. That's how healing begins. Breakups are strange things. Two people who once moved toward each other suddenly begin moving in different directions. Sometimes it's mutual. Sometimes it's one-sided. Sometimes it's the only way forward, even when both hearts wish it weren't. And you may notice memories rising. Memories and moments you shared. Moments you lost. Moments you wish you could rewrite. But breakups are not failures. They are transitions. They are the soul's way of saying, this chapter has given all it can. And as you hear these words, you may begin to see that endings are not punishments. They are invitations. Invitations to grow, to rediscover yourself, to reclaim the parts of you that dimmed, just to keep the relationship alive. Unrequited love is one of the quietest pains. It doesn't explode. It lingers. It whispers. It hopes. It imagines. You see what could be, even when they cannot. You hear meaning in their words, even when they didn't intend it. You feel connection, even when they feel distance. But here is the truth your heart already knows. Love that is not returned is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their capacity. And you deserve love. You deserve a love that meets you where you stand. Some connections go deeper than logic. They feel ancient, familiar, magnetic. These are the ties that linger, the ones that pull at you, even when the relationship is over. You may see their face in your mind, hear their voice in your memory, feel their presence in your chest. But soul ties are not chains. They are lessons, contracts of growth, connections that served a purpose, even if they didn't last. And when the purpose is complete, the tie can be released with gratitude instead of grief. You're not losing them. You're reclaiming yourself. Sometimes love holds on long after the mind understands it's time to let go. You may picture them in moments of quiet. Hear their name in your thoughts. Feel their energy in your body. But emotional detachment is not forgetting. It is not erasing. It is not pretending you never cared. It's simply choosing to stop carrying what was too heavy, to stop watering what no longer grows, to stop giving your heart to someone who cannot hold it. Detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. Some endings make sense. You understand why they happened. You know they were necessary. You know they were right. And yet, they still hurt. Because love doesn't disappear just because the relationship ended. Because memories don't fade just because the future changed. Because your heart is human. And humans feel deeply. But pain that lingers is not a sign that you're stuck. It is a sign that you loved sincerely. And sincere love always leaves an imprint. As you listen to all of this, you may notice certain truths rising, certain memories softening, certain emotions losing their grip. And that is enough for now. You don't have to rush your healing. You don't have to force clarity. You don't have to pretend you're okay. You only have to breathe. And allow your heart to take one small step forward. Now, when you're ready, we'll begin the meditation. Now, as you settle into this moment, you may begin to notice the subtle ways your body meets the space around you. The temperature of the air resting on your skin. The weight of your body supported beneath you. The quiet hum of the room, or the soft silence between sounds. Your breath may already be shifting, becoming a little slower, a little deeper, a little more willing to soften. Many people find that when they pause like this, The heart begins to reveal what it has been holding. Research shows that nearly 70% of people continue to feel emotional echoes from past relationships long after they end. And you may notice some of those echoes now, not as a problem, but as a simple truth of being human. You may see images rising in the mind, blurred, familiar, a face, a moment, a memory that drifts in like a shadow of light. These images often appear when the body begins to relax, when the mind loosens its grip on the day, when the heart feels safe enough to whisper. You may hear a name, a tone of voice, a sentence that once mattered. Not loud, not sharp, just present enough to remind you that you once cared. The mind often brings forward what it is not yet fully released, not to trouble you, but to be witnessed. You may feel a sensation in the body, a pull in the chest, a flutter in the stomach, a warmth or coolness in the throat. The body remembers in sensations long before it remembers in words. And all of this is natural. It is the heart doing what hearts do. Emotional detachment is not forgetting. It's not erasing. It is not pretending you never cared. It is simply choosing to stop carrying what has become too heavy. To stop watering what no longer grows. To stop offering your heart to someone who could not hold it. More than half of people eventually reach this moment quietly, gently, The way dawn arrives before you realize the night has ended. Detachment is not coldness, it's clarity. It is the moment you realize that holding on is costing you more than letting go ever will. Notice where this person lives in your body, your chest, your stomach, your throat, your shoulders. What is the texture of that place? Smooth or rough? Dense or spacious? What is the temperature? Warm, cool, shifting? What is the movement? Stillness, pulsing, tightening, releasing? What is the sound of that place? A hum? A silence? A faint internal echo? What is the color or light you sense there? Dim? Bright? Muted? Changing? Your body is speaking in sensation, and you are simply listening. You may feel your body quietly saying, "I've held this long enough." There's a part of your body that already knows you cannot stay where you were and become who you are becoming. There's a part of you that knows you cannot keep reaching for someone who cannot reach back. And there is a part of you, quiet, steady, ancient, that is ready to loosen the grip without losing the lesson. Because detachment is not the end of love. It is the beginning of self-return. What hurts me, even if part of me still reaches back. As you continue to breathe, you may notice the descent beginning. Not a falling, but a gentle sinking inward. A soft lowering into the deeper layers of yourself. The layers beneath the thoughts, beneath stories, beneath the memories. The layers where truth lives quietly, waiting to be felt. You may sense the shift as a heaviness in the limbs, a warmth spreading through the torso, a softening behind the eyes, or you may simply feel more present, more aware, more here. You might notice the edges of your awareness widening, as if the space around you is expanding. You might notice the edges of your awareness, your sense of the world, the inner world, becoming clearer, as if a fog is lifting. You might feel the emotional landscape opening, inviting you to step in. This is the beginning of the descent, the beginning of the journey inward, the beginning of the space where release becomes possible. And as you continue to breathe, you may notice that you are already moving deeper, already softening, already preparing to let go of what no longer belongs to you. As you continue to drift inward, you may notice the way your breath has begun to settle into a rhythm that feels older than thought, older than memory, older than anything you could name. A rhythm that belongs to you and only you. Each inhale gathering you. Each exhale loosening something you no longer need to hold. And as this rhythm deepens, you may sense the space inside you widening, as if the inner world is opening its doors, inviting you to step further into the quiet places where truth waits patiently. There is a moment in every descent when the surface begins to fade, when the noise of the day grows distant, when the mind stops trying to organize and simply allows itself to soften through the chest, or a subtle heaviness in the limbs that feels strangely comforting. The body knows when it is safe to let go, and it often knows long before the mind does. Some people describe this stage as sinking into warm water. The way the body becomes buoyant and heavy at the same time. Others describe it as walking into a dimly lit room where everything feels familiar, even if they have never been there before. And some simply feel a quietness, a soft hum beneath the thoughts, a sense that something inside them is beginning to unwind. You may notice memories drifting in, not sharply, not painfully, but like distant shapes moving behind a curtain. A moment you once replayed over and over. A conversation that stayed with you long after it ended. A look, a tone, a silence. These memories rise, not to pull you backward, but to be acknowledged, to be seen in the gentle light of this deeper awareness. The heart often brings forward what is ready to release. And as these memories drift through, you may sense the emotional weight they once carried. Not as a burden now, but as something you can observe from a little distance. The way you might watch waves rolling toward the shore, knowing they will rise, crest, and fall without needing anything from you. You are not inside the wave anymore. You are watching from the shoreline of your own awareness. There is a part of you that has been waiting for this distance, waiting for the moment when the emotional charge begins to loosen, when the grip of longing softens just enough for you to breathe more freely. You may feel that softening now, like a knot beginning to untangle, or a tightness beginning to melt, or a heaviness beginning to lift. The body often releases in sensations long before the mind understands what's happening. As you continue to descend, you may notice the inner world becoming more vivid, the colors a little richer, the sensations a little clearer, the emotional landscape more defined. You might sense a corridor ahead of you, or a path, or a doorway, or simply a deepening of the space you're already in. There's no right way for this inner world to appear. It shapes itself around your readiness. You may feel the presence of the version of yourself who carried so much for so long, the version who held on even when it hurt, the version who tried to understand, to fix, to hope, to wait. You do not need to speak to this version of yourself. You do not need to comfort or correct them. Simply noticing them is enough. They are a part of your story, but they are not the whole you. And as you breathe, you may sense that this version of you is beginning to step back. Not disappearing, not fading, but giving you space. Space to feel what you feel now, not what you felt then, but space to see the situation with the clarity that only distance can bring. Space to begin releasing the emotional threads that kept you tied to someone who could not meet you where you needed to be met. You may feel the descent deepening even further now, as if you are moving into a quieter layer of yourself. A layer where the emotional noise softens, where the mind becomes more spacious, where the heart begins to loosen its grip. This is the place where release becomes possible. Not forced, not demanded. I'm allowed to simply possible. What hurts me, even if part of me still reaches back. And as you rest in this deepening space, you may notice a subtle shift. inside you. A sense that something is preparing to change, preparing to move, preparing to let go in its own time. You do not need to push it. You do not need to hurry it. You are simply here, breathing, descending, softening, opening. This is the final stretch of the descent, the threshold before the release begins. And you are exactly where you need to be. You may notice, as you settle even deeper into this inner space, that something inside you has begun to loosen in a way that feels different from before. Not dramatic, not sudden, but steady, like a knot has begun to loosen. That has been quietly untying itself while you weren't looking. The breath moves differently now, as if it has found a path with fewer obstacles, fewer tight corners, fewer places where it once caught and held itself. And as the breath moves more freely, you may sense that your emotions are beginning to move more freely too. There is a moment in every deepening when the heart begins to show you what has been being carried, not to overwhelm you, but to lighten itself. You may feel that moment now, like a gentle ache rising from somewhere you haven't visited in a long time. Not a sharp ache, not a painful one, but the kind that comes from remembering how much you once hoped, how much you once offered, how much of yourself you once placed in someone else's hands. And as this ache rises, you may notice that it feels softer than it used to, less like a wound, and more like a memory of something that mattered. You might feel emotional threads that once tied you to this person, not as ropes or chains, but as fine strands of feeling, delicate, intricate, woven through moments and meanings. These threads do not pull you now. They simply shimmer in the quiet light of your awareness, showing themselves so you can understand where they lived, how they formed, and why they are ready to loosen. As you breathe, You may feel the body responding in its own language. A warmth spreading through the ribs, a softening in the throat, a release in the shoulders, a gentle heaviness in the arms or legs. The body often lets go before the mind does, and you may sense that happening now, as if your muscles have decided they no longer need to brace for something that isn't coming. You may notice the emotional landscape shifting again, becoming more spacious, more open, more willing to let light in. The colors may change. The air may feel different. The ground beneath you may feel more stable, more supportive. Some people describe this stage as standing in a room where the windows have just been opened, letting in a breeze that carries away the stale air. Others describe it as stepping into a clearing after walking through a dense forest. And some simply feel a quietness, a sense that the emotional noise has softened enough for them to hear themselves again. There is a part of you that has been waiting for this softening, waiting for the moment when the emotional weight becomes light enough to lift, when the memories become gentle enough to hold without hurting, when the longing becomes quiet enough to release. You may feel that readiness now, not as a push, not as a demand, but as a subtle shift inside you. A sense that something is preparing to move. You might sense the presence of the version of yourself who once held on so tightly. The version who believed that letting go meant losing something essential. The version who thought that detachment meant failure or abandonment or giving up. This version of you is still here, but they are softer now, quieter, more willing to step aside and let the deeper truth emerge. And that deeper truth is simple. You are allowed to release what no longer supports your growth. You are allowed to loosen your grip on someone or something who could not hold you. You are allowed to reclaim the parts of yourself you once gave away. You are allowed to return to yourself without guilt, without regret, without apology. As you breathe, you may feel the emotional threads beginning to loosen. Not all at once, not dramatically, but gently, like the slow unweaving of something that was never meant to be permanent. You may feel the space between you and this person or this situation widening, not in a painful way, but in a natural, inevitable way, like two paths that once crossed and are now diverging. This is the softening before the release, the moment when the heart prepares to let go, the moment when the emotional weight becomes light enough to lift, the moment when you begin to feel the quiet strength of your own presence returning. And as you rest in this softening, you may sense that the release is already beginning, quietly, gently, in the background of your awareness. You do not need to force it. You do not need to guide it. You are simply here with me, breathing, softening, opening, allowing. You may notice, as you rest in this deepening quiet, that something inside you has begun to shift in a way that feels unmistakable. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, but steady, like a tide, turning beneath the surface, long before the waves reveal the change. The breath moves differently now, with a kind of ease that wasn't there before, as if the body has decided it no longer needs to hold itself in the same old patterns. And as the breath softens, you may sense the heart softening too, opening just enough to let something move that has been waiting for this moment. There is a point in every journey inward when the emotional threads that once felt so tangled begin to loosen on their own. You may feel that loosening now, like a gentle unwinding in the chest, or a warmth spreading through the ribs, or a subtle release in the throat. The body often knows the mind does that. It is time to let go. And you may sense that knowing now, quiet, but certain, like a whisper, rise out to let go from somewhere deep within you. Even if part of me. You might notice the memories that once felt sharp becoming softer around the edges, as if time has wrapped them in a gentler light. A moment that once stung may now feel distant, like something you can observe without stepping inside it. A conversation that once echoed may now sound faint, like a voice heard from another room. A longing that once pulled at you may now feel lighter, less insistent, more willing to fade. And as these memories soften, you may feel the emotional weight they carried beginning to lift, not all at once, but gradually, like mist rising from the ground as the sun warms the air. You do not need to push them away. You don't need to force anything. You're simply allowing what is ready to move, and what is ready to stay. Release is not an act of will. It is an act of permission. You may sense the presence of the version of yourself who once held on so tightly standing a little farther back now, watching with a kind of quiet understanding. They are not resisting. They are not clinging. They're simply witnessing, recognizing that the moment they feared has arrived, and discovering that it is not as frightening as they once imagined. They may even feel relief, a sense that they no longer have to carry the weight alone. I'll carry it with you. As you breathe, you may feel the emotional threads that connected you to this person beginning to dissolve. Not in a painful way, but in a natural, inevitable way. Like leaves releasing from a branch when the seasons change. You may feel the space between you widening, not as a loss, but as a return. Returning to yourself, returning to your own center, returning to the place where your energy belongs. You might sense the inner landscape shifting again, becoming brighter in some places, clearer in others. The air may feel lighter. The ground beneath you may feel more solid. The space around you may feel more open. Some people describe this stage as stepping into a room where the walls have moved outward, creating more space to breathe. Others describe it as standing on the shoreline where the tide is pulled back, revealing more of the ground beneath their feet. And some simply feel quietness, a sense that something inside them has finally begun to let go. There is a part of you that has been waiting for this release, waiting for the moment when the emotional weight becomes light enough to lift, when the memories become gentle enough to hold without hurting, when the longing becomes quiet enough to fade. You may feel that readiness now, not as a push, not as a demand, but as a natural unfolding, like a flower opening in its own time. And as you rest in this unfolding, you may sense that the release is happening even now, quietly, gently, in the background of your awareness. You do not need to guide it. You do not need to shape it. You are simply allowing it, the way you allow the breath to move in and out without effort. This is the beginning of the release, the moment when the heart starts to let go, the moment when emotional threads begin to dissolve, the moment when you begin to feel the quiet strength of your own presence returning to you. And as you breathe, you may sense that the release is deepening, preparing to move through you more fully, more freely, more completely. You are already in the process of letting go. You may sense, as you linger in this quiet space, something has begun to move with a new kind of ease. It's subtle at first, like the faint shift of air when doors open. Somewhere far off down a hallway, a soft current, a gentle pull, a feeling that the atmosphere around you has changed in a way that you can't quite name, but can unmistakably feel. The breath follows this shift, deepening without effort, as if it has found a wider path to travel. There's a moment in every inward journey when the space around you seems to expand, not outward, but inward, creating room where there was none before. You may feel that expansion now, like a widening in the chest or a spaciousness behind the ribs. The inner landscape adjusts itself, opening pathways that were once hidden, revealing contours you hadn't noticed until this very moment. The light here may be different, softer, warmer, or perhaps clearer, as through something has been lifted from the air. You might notice the presence of something you've been carrying, not as a weight now, but as a shape, a form, a quiet companion that has walked beside you for longer than you realized. It doesn't press against you. It doesn't pull at you. It simply stands there, visible in a way it wasn't before. As if something softening. The softening you've already moved through has made it possible to see without flinching. And as you breathe, you may sense this presence is beginning to loosen its hold. Not in a way that makes it seem that because you push it away, and not because it retreats, but because the space around you has changed. The ground beneath you feels steadier, the air feels lighter, the inner world feels more open. And this openness, the things that once clung to you begin to drift away. I'm allowed to let go. The way what hurts me, that leaves lift from the ground still when a gentle wind passes through. You may feel a settled release in the body, a warmth spreading through the shoulders, a softening in the stomach, a lightness in the throat. These sensations don't demand anything from you. They simply rise and fall, like waves that have found a calmer rhythm. The body responds to release in its own language, and you may sense that language now, quiet and steady. The inner landscape shifts again, revealing a path you hadn't noticed before. It may appear as a clearing, or a stretch of open ground, or simply a widening of the space you're already in. There is nothing you must do with this path. You don't need to walk it or follow it. Its presence alone is enough. A sign that something inside you has opened, creating room for movement, for change, for whatever comes next. You might sense the version of yourself who once held on, standing a little farther away now, not in sadness, not in fear, but in recognition. They understand that the moment they once resisted has arrived, and that it feels different than they imagined. Softer, quieter, more natural. They watch you with a kind of gentle acceptance, knowing that release is not a loss, but a shift. And as you breathe, you may feel the presence you've been carrying beginning to drift. Not disappearing, not vanishing, but moving to a distance that feels right. A distance where it no longer passes against your heart. A distance where it no longer shapes your steps. A distance where it can exist without defining you. The air around you feels lighter now, as if something is lifted. The ground beneath you feels more solid, as if it has been waiting for this moment. The space within you feels clearer, as if a window has been opened and fresh air is moving through. This is the heart of release. Not a dramatic letting go, but a quiet shift in the balance of things. A gentle rearranging of the inner world. A soft exhale that carries something with it. And as you rest in this moment, you may sense that the release is still unfolding, still moving, still reshaping the space within you. You don't need to guide it. You don't need to understand it. You are simply here with me, breathing, allowing, witnessing. The release is happening, and you are ready on the other side of its beginning. The space around you feels different now, as though the air has settled into a quieter rhythm. The light in this inner space has a new quality to it. Softer in some areas, brighter in others. As if something has shifted in the way the world inside you holds itself. The ground beneath your feet feels steady, familiar, almost like a place you've walked before, but are seeing with new eyes. There's a sense of movement in the distance, not urgent, not demanding, just a gentle stirring, like the breeze, the first breeze that moves through a still forest. It carries with it a feeling of openness, a widening of the path ahead. The landscape seems to breathe with you, expanding slightly with each inhale, settling with each exhale, creating a rhythm that feels natural to follow. You may notice a shape forming along the path, a figure, a presence, a version of yourself that feels both familiar and newly formed. This figure doesn't rush toward you. It simply stands there, steady and patient, as though it has been waiting for you to reach this point. There is no pressure in this presence, only a quiet recognition, the kind that comes from meeting a part of yourself you haven't seen in a long time. As you draw closer, the details become clearer. The posture, the expression, the way this figure seems to hold the space around it. There is a calmness here, a groundedness, as if this version of you has been shaped by everything you've walked through and everything you've released. It doesn't speak, but its presence carries a sense of clarity, like a mirror reflecting something steady and whole. The landscape around you responds to this meeting. The air feels warmer, the ground more solid, the light more defined. Colors shift gently, deepening in some places, softening in others, creating an atmosphere that feels balanced and open. The path ahead stretches forward, not as a demand, but as an invitation, wide enough to walk with ease, clear enough to follow without strain. The figure inside you begins to move, not away from you, but alongside you, matching your pace with quiet certainty. There's no urgency in the steps, only a steady rhythm that feels natural to fall into. The path curves gently, leading you through a landscape that seems to open more with each step, revealing new shapes, new textures, new possibilities. The air carries a sense of spaciousness now, as though the world inside you has made room for something new. The light shifts again, catching on the edges of the path, illuminating the way forward with a soft glow. The figure beside you remains steady, quiet companion on this inner journey, reflecting a sense of presence that feels grounded and whole. As you continue walking, the landscape begins to settle into a calm stillness. The colors soften, the air grows quiet, and the path becomes smooth beneath your feet. There's a sense of arrival here, not at a final destination, but at a place where you can pause, breathe, and feel the steadiness of the ground beneath you. The figure beside you gradually fades into the surrounding light, not disappearing, but blending into the landscape, becoming part of the space you carry within you. The path remains open, stretching forward with quiet clarity, ready for whatever you choose to take the next step. The air settles, the light softens, the inner world grows still, and you remain here, grounded in this quiet place, with the sense of a path ahead and the calm presence of your own inner steadiness beside you. Light on the plateau begins to shift, warming slightly as though the sun has moved a little higher in the sky. The long shadows of the stone pillars soften, their edges blurring into the surface of the plateau. The air carries a faint change in temperature, a quiet signal that the stillness of this place has started the beginning to open into something wider. A gentle breeze moves across the stone, steady and unhurried, brushing past with a sense of direction that wasn't there before. It gathers around you, lifting the warmth from the surface and carrying it upward, as if inviting you to rise with it. The horizon brightens, revealing more of the distant mountains, their outlines sharpening against the sky. The plateau remains steady beneath your feet, but the atmosphere around it begins to feel lighter, as though the space itself is preparing to release you from its quiet hold. The pillars stand unchanged, yet they seem to watch with calm acceptance, as if they understand that this moment is part of the rhythm of the pace. The sky expands above you, blue, deepening, the light settling into a glow. The air grows clearer, the sound softer, the space more open. The plateau feels less like a destination and now more like a point along a path, one that has been offered its stillness and now allows you to move beyond it. The landscape begins to fade at the edges, not disappearing, but blending into a softer light, as though the world is gently dissolving into brightness. The warmth of the stone lingers for a moment, then gradually releases, leaving only the sense of openness and quiet that the plateau held. The scene lifts, lightens, and slowly dissolves into a calm, neutral space. I choose peace. The brightness settles into a soft, even glow. Neither here nor there, simply present. The sense of height fades, replaced by a gentle steadiness that feels grounded and clear. The air around you becomes quiet, the light smooth and warm, as though the world has paused in a moment of calm. There is no rush to return, no urgency in the shift. The scene simply settles, allowing you to rest in the quiet space between the landscapes, where nothing is required and nothing is held. The plateau remains somewhere behind you, steady, unchanged, a place you can revisit whenever the story calls for it.